growing up as a kid, and I'm in my 70s, pit bulls were the best family dog in the world. They were just great dogs, you know, and they were great to have around other animals.
There's been a definite change in the image of the pit bull and the breeds associated with the pit bull. In the early part of the 20th century, the pit bull was seen as a loyal, all-American companion. It was used in posters for World War I, recruiting posters, war bonds, and so forth. And then in the 1930s, there was a popular program on film, and later on in television, the Our Gang comedies.
We look at the Little Rascals and Petey, right? Petey was a pit bull type dog, and a lot of people still don't know that. You know, the nanny dogs, I mean, you name it, the history is varied depending upon what book you read and who you talk to.
Things started to change in the late 80s. I think it was Newsweek, one of the national news magazines, called the breed the most dangerous breed in America, the baddest dog around. And that tended to make a big, strong impression in people's mind.
They have a massive amount of force. And when they, you know, there's this perception they have locked jaws and all, it's false. They just have a massive amount, possibly up to 2,500 pounds per square inch of biting force. So when they bite and hold, they don't let go.
A lot of people think that once a pit bull bites that their jaws lock and they cannot release, which is completely false.
But that's what they were bred to do. They were bred to go catch things. They were bred to catch animals. You know, people use them for pigs, to bay up pigs. So that's a physical characteristic that makes them very dangerous.
It is a myth. There is no such thing as a locking jaw. I think that, again, it's a myth that's been perpetuated by the media. If you read the Pit Bull Placebo, there's a whole study on the anatomy of the jaw and the fact that there's no anatomical way to have a jaw lock on a dog. So it's just another one of those myths that we have to work hard to dispel.
Pit bulls have a lot more muscle, period. I mean, they're lean, they're quick. If you look at their heads, I mean, they are almost all muscle. And I think that's what makes people tend to want to use them in a bad way. They probably got their name from being pit fighters, and they used them because they had these strong muscular jaws, they had strong chest, you know, and they were quick. And they are a dominant breed. So when you put them in those circumstances and you train them to be aggressive, then, you know, you're going to get a dog that's good at fighting. And unfortunately, that's where all this comes from.
They're no more different than anything. Every dog can bite, and they can exert hundreds of pounds on these really wicked canine teeth, and they can inflict a pretty bad puncture.
What makes good stories are things that scare people. So if you look at the statistics on how many times an attack by a pit bull type dog is publicized versus an attack by a German Shepherd or any other type of dog, it's about 200 times more likely to be covered. It's covered 200 times more than a story on another type of dog. So people believe what they see and they believe what they hear, even if they've not met a pit bull type dog. So there's a lot of preconceived ideas, false ideas.
What is depicted in entertainment or whatever, that tends to be what we think about. So when we do hear about dog attacks, and it's the same breed that we hear over and over, that tends for us to believe, gee, that really is a dangerous breed. It reinforces any biases that we have, and in a sense there's an amplification going on. The media amplifies these somewhat isolated issues and makes it seem like it's a much bigger story than perhaps it is.
Media is our major radio, television, print media, is the major source of educational literature for people. And if they print articles that are based on emotions and hysteria and what have you, then that's what everyone's going to come to believe. You know, it goes back to, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus because it appeared in the newspaper. If it appears there, it must be true.
Usually what we'll see is that there will be some selective reporting going on, meaning that if the dog bite involves another breed, let's say a breed that we think is, you know, like real cute, like maybe a Jack Russell Terrier or something that we've seen on television, that doesn't necessarily raise the same level of fear and the same level of almost panic that the pit bull does. So essentially those kinds of dog bites are going to get more attention.
Yes, people do die of dog bites, and some of those dog bites are in fact inflicted by pit mixes or pit breeds or pit type dogs. But there's also other dogs, golden retrievers, Labrador retrievers, pack dogs, and what have you. And I just think that information is not only misleading, I think a lot of it's just absolutely false. My belief of the media is they're into sensationalism.
These kinds of dog bites and these kinds of attacks tend to be sensationalistically often covered. That gets the headline.
Being Canadian, and I've been down in Florida for 5 years, we don't have many pit bulls in Canada. It's not a popular breed. So when you hear on CNN about all these pit bull attacks, the perception is that they're not nice dogs. Once I came to Florida and I saw my first 2 pit bulls, and then saw my first 200 pit bulls, they're great dogs. They're fantastic dogs. So my perception changed very quickly. I was like, these aren't the same pit bulls that we see on CNN. So the perception out there is the televised, the bad. But to be honest, I have several hundred pit bull clients, and I don't have very many bad pit bulls.
Our pits and the bully breeds and what have you, generally speaking, they get the short end of the stick. They just don't get much.
What were the events leading up to the bite? What was the nature of the owners of that particular animal? Or what occurred? I mean, were other dogs involved? Was the attack unprovoked? Sometimes in the short amount of time that local television stations can give to such a story, that whole context is missing.